Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Outhay Lovan with Let's UnWine, powered by VisiPay, here live at ETA TRANSACT in Las Vegas. Hi, Aimee. Thanks for joining us for this Let's UnWine podcast here live at TRANSACT 2025.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So, marketing director at MAPP Advisor. Tell me a little bit about what you do, MAPP Advisor. Give a shout out to your people.
Yes, I definitely want to give a shout out to MAPP Advisors. MAPP focuses on mergers and acquisitions in the payments industry. We help companies get private equity and do capital raises. And I'm especially proud of MAPP Advisors this year because, again, for the third consecutive year, we are sponsoring the ISV Village, which has been a very popular program here. We invite 10 ISVs to participate. They get free space to showcase their payments technology and get an award from ETA. And also, this is the third year that we are sponsors of the Empower program here at TRANSACT. And I'm especially proud to serve on the advisory board for the third consecutive year.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you're joining this platform as well, because this platform is for us.
Yes, it is.
So you actually just spoke earlier this morning, right behind us, the growth stage, and the topic is myth-busting, career-limiting stories we tell ourselves. And I love this topic because we do. We tend to self-doubt. We tend to tell ourselves stories. So why don't you give us a high-level overview of what this topic was about?
Okay. Well, I think, through growing up and throughout our careers, we do doubt ourselves at times, and, we get negative feedback from other people, and it definitely impacts how confident we feel and, whether we think we can achieve goals. And I think we just have to learn to tune out that negativity, tune out the noise, come up with a game plan, believe in yourself, and just follow a game plan, do your research, try your hardest, and be an honest, ethical person. And I think you'll have the success that you're looking for.
Yeah, I love that. So my question for you, how can we differentiate between a real career limitation and a self-imposed myth? What steps can we take to challenge ourselves in our daily personal lives?
I think definitely asking for additional responsibilities at work and, finding mentors there who can help you. If it's, obviously to go up the ladder of success, you're going to have to build on your skills. You may not be aware of how to do certain things. If you find a great support network who can help you, then you're going to acquire more skills. And you can definitely acquire skills by going back to school, attending, events like TRANSACT to learn more about payments. And I think those are some really great ways that you can really beat those myths.
Right. And I think about, when you know that this is an area that you self-doubt yourself a lot about, and the negativity that you give yourself, take that under control. And maybe that's what you go after, saying, I know I do this. How can I get someone to mentor me, or what ways can I change that narrative to stop myself from thinking this way?
Yeah, and if you fake it till you make it, just by appearing more confident. If you don't feel confident, if you smile when you enter a room, keep your head up. Maybe you don't want to dress in a suit like I do, but maybe just make sure that you're put together nicely. And over time it comes. Push yourself to network at events, and over time it becomes easier. And it's just, if you take baby steps, you can take bigger steps down the road, and you just build on that, and it in turn builds your confidence.
I love that. Thank you. So my next question for you, by far, hands down, who has the most interactive booth here?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm going to say UnWine, because you know what? If it wasn't 10:30 in the morning, I would definitely have a glass of wine. However, I have a long day ahead, and we have the pleasure of entertaining a bunch of clients and friends in a suite at the Sphere for the Eagles concert tonight. So we're very excited about that.
Yes.
And so, it'll be a long night, but I will definitely unwind in that suite
tonight.
There you go.
All right. Sounds good.
We'll conclude with one thing that I always do when I'm publicly speaking. I always wear fabulous shoes.
I love it. We did have some conversation about clothing attire. And I did say every day I'm wearing a different outfit with different shoes to match. So my suitcase was full.
Well, that's great. And I love your shoes today.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, we're going to have to make sure we show that photo with our shoes.
Yes, we're color coordinated in our purple and our sparkly shoes.
Yep. Thank you so much, Aimee. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. This has been great.
Thanks. Hi, Lorraine. Thanks for joining Let's UnWine. Actually, I'm going to take it back. Did I pronounce your name right?
Lorraine.
Lorraine,
Yes.
I did. Okay, start over. Okay. Hi, Lorraine. Thanks for joining Let's UnWine podcast here live at Transact 2025.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you more than you know. I do. This platform is for us. And so I love the fact that I get the opportunity to engage with panelist speakers. That's part of the Empower Her sessions. And so this is a great opportunity. Let's talk about your background. So why don't you tell us a high-level overview of your background, your journey, and where you at? What are you doing? What's next?
Absolutely. So I have over 15 years of experience in payments, fintech, and technology. So I have mainly spent my career in sales, partnerships, go-to-market strategy, and programming while working at several acquirers, fintechs, and SaaS companies. So a lot of what I've done is developed and led embedded payments, embedded finance, embedded accounting, sales, strategy, and initiatives. And I also tend to be very involved in nonprofits. So I recently co-launched a very thriving Toronto chapter of Paytech Women, supporting the local fintech and payments community in the city of Toronto. So that's a little bit about me. I am actually here at the show. I moderated a panel, which we can chat about a little bit. But I'm also having a lot of conversations, networking, interviewing, learning a lot as I am in the market for my next opportunity.
Yeah.
So I'm getting a lot of really great feedback on my experience, because I did start in the payments business at a payments company. I then pivoted to a SaaS company in the MarTech space. I worked for a fintech, building out their partners and channels, invoice financing, so embedded finance. I've also worked in the prepaid space, which is very relevant as well. I've also worked for a large global acquirer, building out one of their markets. And then recently at Sage, doing some really, really interesting work, transformative to their customers, helping them, achieve revenue and drive more operational success. So I've got very different kind of unique experience is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So now I'm just trying to figure out, hey, what do I want to do next? Who do I want to work for? What are the things that really give me energy and motivate me?
Exactly.
And where do I want to apply my skills and talents?
Yeah, I love that.
That's kind of a long answer.
Yeah. Well, let's cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Good for you. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, and you talked about this. Your session was here earlier this morning at the Grove State here behind us.
Yes.
And the topic is about myth busting, career limiting stories that we tell ourselves.
Yes.
I love this idea for a topic because yes, we do tell ourselves stories. We change the narrative a little bit because we self-doubt. Mm-hmm. So my question for you, and before I get to my question, why don't you give us a high-level overview of what this session was about?
Yes, absolutely. So we had 3 amazing, very senior women from Visa, Discover, and MAPP advisors, so women that I respect deeply. And what I would say right out of the gate is, for me personally, when I hear women that you respect and admire kind of share very authentically some of the challenges and stories and struggles that they've had, for me, I know it really resonates and it makes me feel not alone. Because I think sometimes as women, we're like, you think it's only you, right? Because not everybody openly talks about it. So when I hear them sharing, it's very meaningful, and that they did, right? So I wanted to hear about their experiences with career limiting myths, and they shared some stories. I know one of the panelists, Aimee, had a very challenging upbringing. You know, her family kind of talked down to her and was not supportive. So she talked a lot about that and how that impacted her and how she had to really work through to rise above all of that. That resonated with me because I had a similar childhood, right? Deirdre talked a lot about how, like, these limiting beliefs can actually operate in an environment where they can be both positive and negative at the same time. So I found that very interesting as well.
Yeah.
And also Aimee shared a little bit about how, you know, she had a really bad experience selling real estate and was really questioned and challenged with some of her capabilities. People were judging her on who she was and how she looked and her age. And she used that to fuel herself.
Yeah, I love that.
So we heard a lot of really great anecdote stories. And then we kind of segued into, hey, do women and men struggle the same? Like, what's our opinion on that? And I know the consensus was that we thought that men also struggle.
Yeah, of course.
But we think that there's some constructs in society for women where maybe we hear about it too much, or we talk about it too much, or we dwell on it a lot. So that was kind of an interesting discussion.
Yeah.
And then finally we wrapped up with some calls to action, some inspiration around, like, what do we do to move this forward? How do we overcome this? You know, so mentorships, sponsorships, having your swipe file, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you get accolades from a customer or a boss on your performance review, save those.
Yeah.
Keep them in one place. And when you're feeling that imposter syndrome or that spotlight effect, read them.
I love that.
Have your inner circle, your hype crew.
Yeah. That's
right?
awesome.
So many good nuggets.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. So that sounds amazing. And I like the fact that you talk about, you know, backgrounds and journey. And I think sometimes we forget of, you know, we're in this, you know, high level role. And we forget that the journey has brought us to this, and the fight and the struggle. And I actually just mentioned it's continual. It doesn't stop.
Yeah.
You know, I fought in my 20s. I fought in my 30s. I'm fighting in my 40s. You know, it doesn't stop, and you're always trying to prove yourself.
Yes.
And of course, there's always that self-doubt.
100%.
Right.
And I think it's very normal. And then, you know, it's like how to move past all of that. Like, whatever the technique is, if you're listening to podcasts, reading books, like focusing on different practices, I think we just need to be mindful and just keep pushing forward and don't let it stop us. Like, truthfully, I'm terrified of speaking on stage, but I force myself to do it.
Yeah, stepping out of your comfort zone.
Because that is how I grow.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to grow.
Yeah.
So I need to do the work to grow and put myself out there.
Yeah, good for you. So my question for you regarding that topic, what are some practical strategies for recognizing and overcoming the career limiting beliefs, and how can we reframe them into opportunities for growth?
Yes. No, it's a good question. I know, you know, mentorships and sponsorships came up a lot.
Yes.
Right? So one of the panelists, I think it was Deirdre, mentioned how she said in a meeting with her boss, can't remember how she kind of described the situation, but she was essentially talking a little bit down about herself. And her boss was like, well, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
And kind of shone that mirror back to her and gave her a little bit of a reality check to say, no. So I think speaking to people in your inner circle about maybe some of those self-doubts that you're actually having and bouncing it off them.
Yeah.
As long as there's trust there.
Right.
To say, hey, is this really, am I right here? Is this wrong? So that, I think, is a technique that I'm going to start leveraging a little bit more in my roles. one of the audience asked a question around, she had a boss that told her she was too aggressive. She was actually defending her customers, he felt, too vehemently. So she was like, what do I do? And again, the advice that she got back was ask probing questions, like question that type of feedback to say, well, can you help me understand, like, maybe some examples of where you thought that?
Exactly.
So, like, question the narrative.
Yep.
Question the feedback. I mean, feedback is great. And I do believe even constructive feedback is great. And I love when I get something that I can really work with on how to improve myself. But, like, you got to really understand it at a deep level.
Well, and also giving constructive feedback, you have to be able to provide that example.
Yes.
So they understand it a little bit more of why it's, constructive.
Yeah. But that's a label, right? That women sometimes get. You're too aggressive. I got the label when I was a kid. I had 3 sisters. I was the oldest. I was the bossy sister. I was the sister that went against the grain. So, like, these are things that are very deeply ingrained in our psyche. So, like, trying to figure out how to get rid of those.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Yeah.
It's a process. So,
yeah. It was a good topic.
Yes.
So my next question for you, what's your go-to prediction for the future of digital payments?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. I think we're going to see a lot more of the embedded theme, right? I mentioned to you I was working on embedded accounting. Like, that's very new. Nobody's really talking much about that today, right? So having that go-to practice management solution, that the vertical SaaS, embedding it into that application, SMBs using that application to power their business, monetizing it in bigger and better ways. I mean, I see that as a huge opportunity still. I think we're just getting started. I'm interested to see how it evolves from what payment methods and what types of payments change, right? There's lots of talk about open banking.
Yes.
I'm still unclear about how that's going to all play out in the United States and Canada. I think there's a lot in flux, right? As well as the economy.
Right.
I mean, it's an exciting industry to be in.
Yeah. And I think yes, the economy too, but I think it has a lot to do too with the generation.
Yeah.
That's another key thing to think about we're modifying and we're going with times of changing in our ecosystem, and it is it's the generation that's actually boosting us.
Yes.
To move forward.
Yeah.
To be more seamless, to be more digital. So that's great. Well, thank you so much for participating.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you.
Cheers.
Let's cheers. Hey, Michael. Thanks for joining us for Let's UnWine podcast here at TRANSACT 2025.
You're welcome. I'm excited to be here.
I'm super excited to have you on this session as a male advocate.
Absolutely. I have to be honest, this is my second podcast in my career lifetime. So you are number 2.
Yes. So, Vice President, Enterprise Experiential Marketing.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what you do, your team, give a shout out.
For sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm excited to be here at TRANSACT, and I'm excited to be here with you at Let's UnWine. But really my job, I love what I do. I work in events and marketing, and specifically my role at the company is when we think about events, my team and I execute everything that is more external facing. Yeah. So when you think about trade shows such as what we're at today, that's stuff that my team would have purview into. And we really do everything soup to nuts. So when you think about, booking the hotel rooms, getting the badges, all of the administrative work, and then also all of the thought-provoking work on the back end, like how are we going to show up when we're there? What's the experience that we're providing for our customers or our clients? And I think ETA is a really exciting show for us. We have a huge booth. It's 20 by 50. We're showcasing Clover, which is our point of sale system. It's amazing. And so we're giving our guests an opportunity to see how this point of sale works, not only in the retail environment, but in the restaurant vertical, and then also in the service industry. So it's a nice mix, I think, for this audience and what ETA is all about. So we're super excited to be here.
It's a very interactive booth, and actually, believe it or not, we've actually had some individuals give a shout out
That's awesome.
to that booth because it's a very interactive booth.
Absolutely.
So, cool.
And we're lucky right when you walk in the front door. So I think we've been able to captivate people's attention as soon as they walk in.
Exactly.
So it's been great.
Yeah, that's good for you.
No complaints here. Yeah.
Hey. Okay, so I actually want to talk about I have a question for you about your topic you spoke about earlier this morning here behind us at the growth stage. Career champions, how sponsors, advocate, and mentors propel your professional journey. I think it is important, anybody, no matter what your stage in life is to always have somebody that's a supporter, 100% supporter, whether they're a mentor or a friend or someone that you can just bounce ideas off of, right? So give us a high-level overview of what that session was about.
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it, so I don't want to dive too much into that, but I think what's key to it is what I've really learned in my career, and I think what we talked about on the stage behind us, is that it's really important that no one's going to advocate more for you than you.
Yes.
And so you have to be comfortable. I think someone on stage had mentioned like, oh, I'm not always comfortable pushing myself or putting myself forward. Unfortunately, in this world, you have to be. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be selfishly, but I think you need to know who you are and what you stand for. And I think, I started off my session by saying, one of these folks does not look like the other. Clearly, I was a male on a panel of all females. But, my story is really that I'm here as an advocate. I'm an ally. I'm also part of a minority. I'm LGBTQ.
Yeah.
Listen to me, I can't even get them right. I'm LGBTQ, and I also identify as a gay male. So I think it's important that as minorities, we all stick together and understand how we can help raise each other up, right? They talk about tides, raising waters, lift all boats, etc. So I think stuff like that to me is really key. And so when I think about sponsors and mentors and advocates, you really have to think about what you want in your career or where you're going and make that happen. I was fortunate to be a part of your panel this morning in the audience, and I heard you say something that resonated where you were like, listen, I made Let's UnWine happen, right? So you have to be in control of your own career. And it doesn't mean someone can't meet you along the way and say, hey, while you're great at this, you'd be even more amazing at X. But you have to know some general path of where you're going and how you want to get there. Right.
And it all stems from your journey, right?
100%.
So, your background, and I can tell you, I fight as hard as I fight because of my history.
Yeah.
My journey in developing myself and figure out what I want to do.
Right.
And that's a story in itself. And I think people should be proud about that and not be afraid. Stop asking to be in that room.
Right.
Figure out where your strengths are and put yourself in that room.
Agreed. 100%.
I love it. Yeah, it was a great session.
Yeah.
I heard a lot about it, and lot of interactive conversations came out of it.
100%. 100%.
So my question for you on here is, how can individuals identify and cultivate relationships and sponsors with advocates and mentors to just maximize their growth potential?
What really resonates for me is the last part of that when you talk about maximizing. I think about when we plan our financial future, right? You think about a portfolio and diversifying that, right? You don't put all of your money into one bucket. And I think that the same is true about your career, right? I think not only about men and women and others, but it's also what companies or where are they at, right? And so very early on in my career, I thought, oh, I'm LGBTQ. I really should be, getting together with someone who's an executive or in leadership that identifies as LGBTQ, because maybe we'll have a better conversation or they'll understand the path that I'm on, or similarly, if you are a person of color, a Black woman, maybe you think, hey, I should really be connected with X because she is in this leadership position. But you really need to think about, unfortunately or fortunately, there's a lot of, in financial tech, there's a lot of older white straight males. And, if that's the group that is going to be able to help you get to where you need to be. Sometimes you need to embrace that, right? And find those connections. But it's you again, I really think the diversity of your portfolio is key, right? Who are you networking with?
Yeah.
It could be colleagues, right? It could be then leadership at the company you're at.
Yeah.
People in this world move jobs sometimes. Like I've been at my career, or not my career, I've been with Fiserv for 10 plus years. Some people in the industry move from company to company every 2 years.
Yeah.
It's not a problem, but stay connected with those folks,
Yeah.
right? Because that helps your network.
Yeah, it builds your brand.
100%.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
My next question for you.
All right.
What's one trend in fintech payments that excites you the most?
I think that it's ever evolving or ever changing. I've seen this year at ETA TRANSACT, a lot of the conversations are around AI and how hugely important that is and what that means. And AI means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And also in the industry that you're in, it means different things. So I think what excites me about fintech in general and payments and processing is that things are always changing. And I even think, you were asking me before about shout outs. I think about our point of sale, Clover, right? And we're very similar to the way the phones work, right? We have an app market. So if you have a great idea for how you think our device can help people better, you're able to do that, right? Like there's this opportunity for people, not only our company, but to help make us better, right? We rely on our partners, on our colleagues, on our individual teams that we work with, right? To help get us to that next step. So I just think, although my job can be events, and events, you execute them, they have a finite date. I think what really keeps it interesting is that things change year to year. Like I've been coming here for 10 years. This show has never looked the same, each year. I've met different people. Like this year I came, I met you, so I think all of that stuff is exciting, right? You never know. It's kind of like what life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us
You're
today.
welcome.
Let's cheers.
Cheers.
Appreciate
Awesome.
you.
Yes.